Thank you, John, so much for that very kind introduction. I'll just get my equipment needs sorted. I must say how very pleased I am to be here in Newcastle and at Northumbria University and talking about Japan's links with the region. As John has pointed out, my own research on this subject goes back quite a long time. And I was in the region actively working at the time that Nissan and other Japanese companies were seeking to invest. So I was, in a small way, part of the wooing process that went on, and I think some people in the audience today also played a part in encouraging Japanese firms to take a serious look at this region. So it is a particular pleasure not only to be here and talking about this subject, but to be collaborating with such excellent partners. As you've heard already, this is very much a collaboration, this symposium between ourselves, the Daiwa Foundation, the Japan Local Government Center, Newcastle City Council, and of course the university. And as collaborations go, it doesn't get much better than this. We really have had wonderful support from the university from start to finish. So thanks all around. John has made reference to the 150th anniversary of diplomatic links between the UK and Japan, and this does go back to 1858. We are celebrating through Japan UK 150 the many links from the past and the new links that have emerged in more recent years. Of course, going back to 1858, the major economic benefits that came about for both countries through access to new resources and products, as well as knowledge and expertise, is well documented. There was a very significant, of course, social and cultural dimension to these bilateral links, and that dimension is also well reflected in the written accounts and in the material culture of the period. You only need to go up the road to the Lang Art Gallery and look at some of their hidden treasures on the Japanese side to discover that while there was a business relationship, out of that business relationship came a tremendous interest in Japanese culture from the 19th century, the late 19th century onwards. Well, once Japan's door had been reopened to trade with Britain, and indeed with other Western countries in 1858, British diplomats and traders established a presence in Japan, in first Edo and then Yokohama, which was Britain's main major treaty port in Japan. And of course, official Japanese delegations made their way to the UK on political and fact-finding missions. These encounters contributed to the rapid modernization and industrialization of Japan. Now, if I can get this right, the technology is working, excellent. You're looking here at perhaps a familiar and an unfamiliar sight. It's a view of Newcastle taken from the Gateshead side of the river, looking across to the high-level bridge, to St. Nicholas Cathedral, All Saints, the castle, various very familiar Newcastle sites, and of course industry on the river. I think I can do this actually and point out a few of these places. So you've got the Newcastle and Gateshead Water Company here. You've also got a locomotive works on this side and the high-level bridge. These were major landmarks of great importance to Newcastle. At the time that the first mission from Japan, the first delegation from Japan, came to this region, John has got his date right. He's referred to 1862, and it was in May of 1862 that a delegation of Japanese ambassadors from the government of the shogunate, or Bakufu as it was known, came to London to seek the postponement of further treaty ports. These were difficult times in Japan. We don't have time today to go into all the political dimensions of the great changes that were taking place, but suffice it to say that as foreigners arrived in Japan, all was not necessarily well, and until that relationship was bedded down, there were attacks on foreign legations, there were incidents of various sorts. So there was great pressure put on the British government not to open further treaty ports until things settled down. So that was the official political purpose of this visit in 1862, and many meetings took place in London. But also, of course, the Japanese from this early time were very interested to look at industry and society in Britain. They began their tour in the south, in London, and travelled down to the Royal Arsenal at Woolwich, where they observed the casting and fitting of Armstrong guns, Armstrong being, of course, a very famous name, a very famous figure from this region. Lord Armstrong was at that time the superintendent of the Royal Arsenal at Woolwich, so it was it was significant timing as Japan was just beginning to set its horizons on modernization and industrialization and building links with the West. The delegation, following their visit to Woolwich, travelled to Newcastle, where their tour included an inspection of North Seaton Colliery. The Newcastle Daily Journal, in its coverage of the visit, and I'm quite pleased we have a journalist from the Journal with us today, so you might like to note this down, 27th of May, 1862, the Journal drew attention to the attractions which the region had to offer. And you might like to note the visual aid as I read out this passage. And to what part of the country which is better calculated to show them these industrial sensations could they go than to our own neighbourhood? Here in the cradle of the locomotive and the railway system, in the home of the high-level bridge, in the birthplace of the hydraulic engine and the Armstrong gun, and in the great centre of the coal trade, where the largest ships in the world have been built, the illustrious party whom we entertain today will find the real secret of England's greatness among nations. Well, by 1862, the Northeast was certainly on the threshold of its great age of prosperity and industrial importance, and the region's growing reputation in the production of coal, ships, and guns would certainly become central to its future relationship with Japan.